welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about study groups and studying. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Valeria Carvajal. I'm a 2L and I'm from El Paso, Texas.
I'm Emily Leiker. I'm a 3L and I'm from Hays, Kansas.
And I'm Colin Finnegan. I'm a 3L from Morris, Illinois.
Cool. I know that everyone is different, but could you all talk about your study habits and how you got into a study groove, and if there's any study groups available for 1Ls to learn how to study?
So like you just mentioned, everybody's very different when it comes to studying and what works for them. I didn't really have a study routine in undergrad, so that was definitely a struggle coming into law school because I didn't necessarily know what worked for me. So my first semester and year in general was me just kind of trying to figure out how I studied and retained information best. I realized very early that working in a group is not my thing because there's just a lot of chit-chatting that goes on and not as much studying, especially your 1L year because you're trying to get to know people. At least that was my experience. And then my 2L year, I realized that I work well with 1 or 2 people at most, and just writing things over and over on a whiteboard and then making it look neat enough, I guess, because if I write something down, like I'm really focused on how neat it looks. So then if I just write something down on a whiteboard, I would take a picture of it and then type it out or write it out after. So just like repeating the information over and over is what worked for me. But I know some people that absolutely will not work with other people and just stay in their study carrel or just go home and study themselves. It really just depends on what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah, so I actually am one of those people who works best in a group. So I usually study with a couple of friends, especially my 1L year. There were some people from my small section that I got pretty close with, and since we all had the same classes, we would just study together. We learn best from just kind of looking over the information and just kind of teaching it to each other and doing it more kind of discussion style. And that really helped, I think, us retain the information. Same thing though, I know a lot of people who really can only study by themselves. They get off topic if they're in a group. So it's just kind of trial and error, especially your 1L year, just to see what works and what you're comfortable with and what doesn't.
I kind of am all over the place. I'm not a huge routine guy. But some of the things I just think they touched on, everyone's different. And I think the law school is set up for that. So you can, if you're like one of the people that needs it to be super quiet, you can study on the 4th floor, which is the quiet floor. But if you're like me and you're kind of just there to hang out while you study, you can hang out by career services or on the 1st floor. So it's kind of just really about finding what works for you. And I think most people that are super successful have like a set routine and everything, but I don't know, whatever you're in the mood for, there's places to study, people to study with. And the other thing I think is that in orientation and in some of your classes, but especially like your legal writing class, they kind of, I don't know, teach you tips and talk about ways to be successful in studying and learning and things like that. So you can kind of learn techniques and things along the way that help you succeed in school.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I think also the environment that you're in really affects your studying and like retaining information. For me, I cannot study at school for some reason. I feel like I feed off of people's energy, and especially like during finals, everybody is very tense, so it makes me very tense. So I tend to not study at school. I pretty much just go to school for classes and then leave. I love going to coffee shops and just putting my headphones in because if I see other people working, it makes me want to make sure I'm working and not just being at a coffee shop just to be at a coffee shop. But I can also work at home sometimes. So it, like Colin said, I'm kind of all over the place too. when it comes to where I'm actually studying.
Yeah, and pre-coronavirus, there are so many coffee shops and places to study around town. So if you're one of the people, like she said, that doesn't like to study at school, which there are, I think by the time your 3L year hits, a lot of people aren't studying in the law school, but there are dozens of places downtown and all around town to study.
What are some of your favorite coffee shops to study at in Lawrence?
For me, there's one right by where I live on 6th Street. It's called J&S, and I just drink black coffee, and it's like $2, and then after that, it's free refill. And they have booths. You can pretty much be there all day, which is kind of dangerous if you have free refills for coffee. But that's one of my favorites. Starbucks is always a good place, except it can get kind of packed. But yeah, those two, I guess, are mine.
There's a place that just opened up by my apartment. S&S. It's right by West Coast Saloon. By Freddy's. Super good.
I also live right by JNS, so I've gone there a couple of times. Java Break is one that I know people go to a lot because it's kind of got separate rooms. So if you're working as a group, you can go in one room. If you need quiet, you can go into another room. So that's kind of nice. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And we will be back with more in our series.